Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil mursaleen. Amma ba'd. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbi zidni ilma. My dear brothers and sisters, I extend my warmest welcome to each and everyone to Ramadan Online Summit 2020, a vision towards a connected community hosted by Aspire College of Excellence and the Cognate in association with the United Foundation and the Islamic Information Center. A short note on Aspire. Aspire College is one of its kind where it focuses on imparting the authentic knowledge of Islam to students under the guidance of well qualified scholars. Aspire stands for integrity and unity of Muslim Ummah according to the Quran and the Sunnah. It is founded by Sheikh Abdussalam Madani, who has a vision to produce a generation which is well versed in Islamic studies as well as aware of the modern requirement of the Muslim Ummah. The courses offered by Aspire are BA and MA degree in Islamic studies and plus 2 or PUC. Soon, inshallah, by the mercy of Allah, we will be launching our online e-learning portal as well. The admissions for the academic year 2020 have already begun. You can apply it online at Aspire's website. We have few testimonials from students, the pictures of the testimonials, where students give up their opinions about college. I guess the PPT. What's wrong with the screen sharing? Okay. A lot of testimonials where students are actually giving out how they felt and what exactly they've been through in the college phase. So it was a quite good one. I guess we lost the screen sharing. Sad, about screen sharing? Yeah. Uh, where one of them says, I joined this course to learn about Islam, but not only did I learn about Allah's deen, but I also learned how to lead a life in dunya, alhamdulillah, and many more, many more. So we have few glimpses of Aspire, so few pics. So, so this is the picture of a classroom where students are being taught, Sheikh Saddam, and then Aspire also focus on curricular activities along with studies such as excursions and competitions of elocution, painting, calligraphy, etc. Now these are the pics clicked when students had visited Salam Trust, which is a center for children with special needs. They spent a quality time there and they get involved in many other social activities as well. Our hosting partner is thecognate.com, which is a digital news platform of Indian Muslims, which includes content such as news, ideas, culture, and business. The Cognate reports and writes on a wide range of issues and events concerning the Muslim community in India. The world where Muslims are dividing and fighting each other over trivial issues, we aim to unite the Ummah for a better tomorrow. Ramadan Online Summit 2020, one community, one tomorrow. And our speaker for today is Brother Fateh Ali, who's a co-founder and CEO of CollabDeen. He's a visionary entrepreneur who has built tech products and founded multiple companies. And he's a recognized social entrepreneur of global Islamic system for many technology-driven collaborations, with a vision to bridge gaps, to serve society and help them live a faithful, harmonious, and progressive life using technology. He's backed with 12 years of corporate technology experience in investment banking and 13 years into entrepreneurship. He has a lot of values to be shared with. I extend my warmest welcome to you, sir. By this, I would like to conclude. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Over to you, sir.
Walaikum salam. Thank you so much for a brief introduction. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. It's my pleasure being around and giving back to the community, Aspire and the Cognate team. I'm very thankful that you've been inviting me to share my experiences and thought. So without actually going into much details, we'll get started with, let me actually share my screen and then come back to a brief introduction. So that, do you see my screen?
No, not yet, Fateh, not yet. Yeah, it's visible now.
All right. So once again, Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Good to see you all. I see a lot of people joining in on YouTube and Zoom. So I would like to thank Aspire and the Cognate team once again, giving me this opportunity to share my vision, experiences, and the things that I've been working on in the global Islamic economy. So the world, as we know, has really changed. It's changed forever. This is not a scare. This is reality. So COVID has brought in a lot of life-changing moments to a lot of people. So today, my context is more on to how things are disrupting, being the catalyst for the change as COVID comes in, and then what is happening as in current situation, and what's going to happen after COVID, how things would be changing up. That's something I would like to briefly share in today's session. So. In this session, I will actually delve into the unveiling of the facts on the global Islamic economy, what it is for that actually matters to a lot of youth, especially because I understand the lot of audience today is between 20 and 30. So a lot of youth who can definitely take a lot of things back. So it's not just for youth, a few things for everyone, investors, innovators, policymakers, and especially people who are into business or really looking into entrepreneurship, or people who are entrepreneur. I think everyone could slightly benefit out of my today's session. It depends how much you want to really consume out of this brief into what I'll be sharing. So before I still go into further, I'll do a quick introduction, background of myself. Once again, my name is Fateh Ali. I'm the CEO, co-founder of CollabDeen. Professionally, I've got about 13 years of experience at corporate level. I've spent time with JP Morgan, Fidelity Investments, working in the investment bank. But equally, about 13 years of my entrepreneurship journey started while I was still in college. So a lot of things I've learned across until I quit my corporate life 2 years ago and moved on to a full-time journey with entrepreneurship. So a bit of fun fact, I have always enjoyed serving people, serving communities on the ground. I've helped a lot of mosques, churches, many other faith-based communities, initiated a lot of blood donation drives, support old age homes, diversity council to disabled associations. So I've been there, I've seen that through the journey, a lot of things, the challenges that non-profits actually come across. And I've always, as and when, tried and added value back to these societies and organizations in terms of technology, at whatever level I could. And that's given me a lot of exposure of understanding these communities, the faith-based, the non-profits on the ground, the challenges they go through each and every day. And especially with a lot of technological evolution, these faith-based communities are really lacking behind in terms of the technology consumptions. So that's an area of expertise where I would definitely try and add value across. And having this 10 years of experience at least with these non-profits, faith-based and professional communities like LinkedIn ambassador. I'm a LinkedIn ambassador for Singapore. So that's given me a good exposure in the direction what I'm actually trying to share, not just now, but something that I would continuously share on my social media. So I've quit corporate life a couple of years ago and started up with CollabDeen. So CollabDeen is a Singapore-based startup, a technology startup. Our parent company, Collabo Technologies, is actually focused on building a new generation of community collaboration products, primarily focusing on the faith-based communities. As I mentioned, these business communities or the faith-based, faith-inspired businesses are lacking in terms of technology. So that's where we are trying to really understand what actually we could actually provide there. So we are, with the move that we have done, our first product is focused in the global Islamic economy. So when I talk about the global Islamic economy, it all started with about around 2011, 2012, and I started understanding more into what's happening. Before 2012, I did not really know much about this market that exists at a global level. Now, considering that it's something that I've learned so much in this economy. I've done a couple of businesses there. I try to understand the mindset of Muslims, the consumer market on one side. Trying to add value in terms of technology products. It's given me a good an understanding of the whole. Understanding primarily how these faith-based communities work, and what are the actual pain points and needs from these communities, right? That's where I'm trying to add a bit more on that. So now jumping onto if you're looking at my screen, I've not put up this as a presentation or slides. I'm just trying to give you my mind map, right? Trying to understand how actually I could convey this message. It's a huge thing. In my previous presentations, I tried explaining on the presentation slide decks. People still had gaps that were actually missing. Now, I think this is my first attempt in how I would be actually visualizing, giving you a visual board of what I'm trying to explain. Probably, hopefully, this would be a much easier way of understanding what actually I'm trying to convey to you. So a bit on the background, what we do, and how we are actually trying to add value here. So I've divided our session into different segments: global Islamic economy after COVID, what has changed, the winning industry, and being part of this economy. So anything that you want to spend time and play around in this economy, you might really gain in a lot of small tidbits that if you can make notes, or probably if these are going live, you might definitely come back and visit, or always reach out to me. So let me start with the background. Who is actually, we are talking about the global Islamic economy, right? So maybe if you have already heard of global Islamic economy or not heard of it. So I'm trying to connect these dots primarily for you to understand how we can actually give this clarity of this global Islamic economy. Now, putting this into a perspective, let me start with a question, right? We have seen things have been rapidly changing from many, many years. A lot of things have changed, especially things like COVID came in and situations started changing. Likewise, there are a lot of things that play a role of catalyst to make things change. So maybe a question randomly, if I can, look at some hands and people who are live, you can share your thoughts. What is that changing so fast in today's world, right? If you can think of putting it on Zoom or putting it on, YouTube live that's going on. I'm actually looking at my screen as well. So maybe some thoughts, if you have, probably that will start triggering, because I want to have this more of conversation, more than coming things from one perspective. Hamid Hussain is mentioning technology. Definitely, technology is one thing that's really fast changing. We have seen in last, say, 15, 20 years, a lot of things have evolved so much. And the 2 years of technology advancement that was supposed to happen just happened in times of this COVID, right? In 2 months, 2 years of technology changes just happened in 2 years. So that is one thing. Definitely, that's one thing. What is the other thing? Pretty interesting answer. A lot of hands putting up. I'm not sure if we can pick up answers from the Zoom audio, but I'll just park it there because I'm getting a lot of answers. Globalization. Somebody's talking about fashion, market changes, bulls versus bears, right? So I'll not give you more surprises there. So what is changing is there are two things: technology and human race, right? Now, we all know about technology. I will not directly jump into it. Let me go through the human race to begin with, right? Like the other day, I heard the lecture from the founder and director of Aspire College. Sheikh Abdul Salam has already trying to convey how things have been changing from the time Adam al-Islam was born. The human race has taken 12,000 years ago, right? And the evolution of human race to reach the first billion baby, it took almost 12,000 years. So the human lives, if you try to map this into a context, into a scale, it took about 12,000 years from the first person on Earth to reach 1 billion population, human population, right? Now, start looking at this. The next billion, this 1 billion came up in year 1804. The next billion came up in the year 1927, only in 123 years. If you start looking at the scale, at 12,000 years and only about 123 years later, the second billion baby was born. In next 36 years, in 1959, there was the third billion baby. And fourth billion reached in just 15 years from there. And then 7 billion is when what the human population reached in the last 35 plus years. So what talks about this is the human race is fast accelerating. When this is happening, we know that, by end of 2020, a lot of people have predicted, as per the plans, there are 8 billion population is what the human race would achieve. That's something very interesting in terms of how the human race is evolving and how fast it's going. So that's very interesting from a very global consumer market point of view. Now, just give you an insight, out of this 2 billion, out of this 8 billion, the 2 billion are actually Muslims walking on this planet day in, day out, trying to consume a lot of things from a global market standpoint of view. So 2.2 billion population would be actually reaching out by 2030 as the prediction. So what this whole story summarize as, technology is fast changing, and the second fastest thing that's going in, or the first fastest thing, is the human race. When I talk about human race, now I've always started looking at the markets from a consumer point of view. The larger the market, the more resources available, the more cash it could make, the more exchange of values that can happen. So when we understand this, every fourth person on this planet and on this earth is a Muslim that's actually trying to consume products from not just global Islamic economy, it's also from a context of the general economy, right? Now that's pretty much on setting up a base foundation for your thoughts where this discussion is actually going. So that's something that's fast changing. And what is not changing? Any thoughts, predictions? Thank you, Murtaza. I've been mentioning a couple of interesting points. So what is not changing is the way these Muslim market is maybe since 1400 years. The way they, say, for example, dress up, the way they consume or understand things in this market, the way they consume the products. If it is 1400 years before it was a halal product, even now, typically we have the same format of product consumption. If there's a modest way of fashion, we still continue to evolve in the same directions, though things have slightly evolved. But the whole market is actually still constant in terms of not being a big major change in that direction. Now coming back, so probably you've got a little background of the consumer and the market that we are trying to engage in. Now I'll take you to what is global Islamic economy, right? So while halal is more of officially or often associated with food and drink, like a lot of my friends, whenever I go and I talk to even Muslim, it's not about just non-Muslim understanding a halal market, even Muslims who was surprised to understand that halal is more than just the meat products, right? It's not just chicken and regular meat. But while halal is most often associated with food and drink, a wide range of halal products and services such as, say, beauty and wellness, travel and tourism, food and beverages, retail and lifestyle, financial services, for example, can be offered by capitalizing on a global Islamic economy. So this economy is actually projected over $3 trillion to be reaching by 2023. Right now, it's one of the largest, fastest growing economy, and there is a huge potential. So I'm just trying to give you a context before I actually take you through the journey. What's going to change in next few years in this economy? So this widespread growth is actually due to the increase of the demand for halal alternatives across varieties of industry. So when I talk about this, say even if you travel in a non-OIC country's flight, they still have an option to provide you or cater you to a halal food, right? Something on those lines. When I was working with JP Morgan, we made sure everything that's been brought in for events and meetings, they kind of make sure it's more of consumable for all diverse people, including the Muslims. So everyone understand the context of having a halal certified or halal product. So the whole economy around, not just the global Islamic economy, the whole larger economy is really understanding how things actually is needed for this market, because every fourth person, when he's Muslim, is trying to consume something that should be widely available. So I'll talk about those things a bit more further down. Now, the halal industry is actually expected to be one of the steady and growing sectors across global economy. We know that that's a real potential. It's growing. Muslim population worldwide, as I mentioned, it's crossing about 2.2 billion by 2030. It's a huge, no other widespread faith-based ecosystem has this kind of consumer market, and hence a lot of people are trying to really enter or understand the global Islamic economy. So I'll take you through a couple of brands and businesses who are actually trying to penetrate or is already doing much better than the Islamic economy startups or businesses. Now, these brands, businesses are within the global Islamic economy are growing and at an estimated annual rate of 20%. The industry is worth about 560 billion a year. So I'll jump to these screens where we're talking about the faith-inspired business is about $3 trillion and faith-based congregations is 1.2. Let me give you a pause here, just for you to summarize and think about where this discussion is actually heading. And also let me take a break. Now, getting into the faith-inspired businesses. It's a $3 trillion sector. It's an economy that's even larger than about 120 countries' economy, right? So it's one of the largest space where things are really rapidly growing. Now, what consists in faith-inspired businesses and the faith-based congregation is what I'm actually trying to explain to you. Now, there is a huge market opportunity, right? This market opportunity, as I mentioned, $2.2 trillion consumer market spend, the various ways of how you actually mark the assets. There are about 2 billion people. Annual rate is growing 5.2% year-on-year growth, which is a very, very healthy, positive sign of making sure how your economy actually grows. Now, this economy has about 6 real economy sectors, right, as given by the Dinar Standards and Thomson Reuters have been working on these economic reports for last many years, and they've been adding value so much into the analysis and report that's been launched, the state of art reports. They talk about the halal food is almost $1.9 trillion, right? Modest fashion, $420 billion of this ecosystem. They're classified into the 6 real economy sectors and then the Islamic finance. So media and recreation is about 309 billion. Muslim-friendly travel, $274 billion. It's one of the fastest growing and more engaged from the millennials and the new generation's point of view. Every person is trying to now fly abroad. I know many friends and relatives who really, want to come out of their own countries, travel to, say, Southeast Asia, Middle East, go to Turkey, or do a different kind of holiday package. First thing they would like to look is this a Muslim-friendly travel? So what do they mean by that is, do they provide halal food? Do they provide places to stay which is halal? There are many more things. Probably even when you enter a hotel, they have an option where you have the prayer mat and Qibla directions available in the hotel room. So these are the Muslim-friendly ecosystem that talks about and caters to these every fourth person who is actually traveling in this ecosystem. So that's about Muslim-friendly travel. Halal pharmaceutical is about 134 billion, and this is now growing, especially after COVID. Things have rapidly changed. A lot of people in the market are really more now focused on their own health. Halal cosmetic is growing so fast. We understand these new Muslim sisters, women, or trying to really uh, uh, follow the Islamic principles on one side, and then try to consume and be modestly fashionable in their own space. One example I want to pick up from India, because I understand a lot of people joining in from India today. Iba is a fashion brand. It's a halal cosmetic brand. They just recently have raised about 3 million in Series A funding. That's a huge amount. And to be surprised, this being done by Jain sisters in somewhere in Gujarat. So they understand the value of getting into the Muslim market. Their backstory is they've lived in US and understood how these global ecosystems work. They've brought in these values back to India with two target market. One is the women who are Muslims, and then women who are vegan, vegetarian. They don't want to consume things, especially in the cosmetic, when things have to be catered, not non-fat things should be consumed. So the cosmetic brand, somebody's asking the brand, it's on my screen. It's called Iba. They've raised 3 million on the Series A. So that's a direction. This is one example. If you start looking around on the internet, Google, my best friend, gives a lot of information day in, day out. You start seeing more and more happening in this space. So that's pretty much on these 6 economic sectors, primarily heading towards this $3 trillion economy. Now, that's more onto the sectors. Now, in Islamic finance, right, Islamic assets are $3.5 trillion, which is going to be reaching by 2024. And there are the report also, the state of art global Islamic report also talks about the hot sectors. Now, in future, if somebody is looking to get into the market, these are some of these things that you can start looking at. Islamic fintech, in particularly the P2P finance and insurance tech, Takaful is a direction if you're coming from a financial background to start looking what you can actually do. Islamic social finances, it's doing really much in Indonesia, Malaysia, in Southeast Asia regions, and I understand a lot of things are being built up in the India's context as well. So zakat work, microfinancing is something that's really booming up, and which is the future of one of the prime core strength of the global Islamic economy. Another thing is the Islamic trade finance, in particular in trade receivables and factoring. Now, apart from the being in this Islamic finance, as I mentioned, right, if you're really looking to penetrate in this region, the Islamic fintechs are really taking off. I have a couple of information around this area. I'll come back to that. So that's more about the faith-inspired businesses. I'll take a couple of questions, short questions being posted on either YouTube or Zoom. I can definitely pick and give myself a couple of seconds. It's been a tiring day. I had a couple of sessions since morning, and we are running closer to the Maghrib now, inshallah. Trying to save some energy so I can really deliver. So moving forward, I'll get into the faith-based congregations, right? Now, faith-based congregation is not really talked about much. These faith-based industries, as we've always been talking about, has a lot of potential within itself, right? What I want to really share about is, because this is an area not many people, not many businesses, or not many people have talked about on the faith-based congregation. It's a $1.2 trillion. It's focused on the Islamic laws, spirituality, and the consumer who are making a lot of values in these, say, for example, faith congregations. Now, what happened with, we all have seen this journey, right? Within the last 2-3 months, 4 months, a lot of things have evolved, especially COVID playing a catalyst for a lot of Muslim organizations around the world using of Zoom, for example. All of a sudden, we started seeing features like Zoom, live streaming, digital giving, mosque apps getting more popular, mosque management system have been not actually become a luxury, but these are the values that people want to really start consuming. These tech forward communities who are really trying to give back to the societies, they are now jumping onto more focused plan for making sure their communities are technologically equipped. But safeguarding for every mosque is probably, if COVID-19 is the icebreaker, Muslim tech contains the lifeboat for us. So that's something I always, advocate and give more value from, because I'll give you some background. Technology is changing the way the world works these days. We are at prime, definitely have prime for a revolutionary change before the pandemic. As we started moving, businesses have revolutionized using technology. Now, families and lifestyle have also been reconceived and transformed by the mobile phones. Mobile tech space was one of the last remaining institute in the general space to be, most unchanged, but things recently have really been put up in a very different context. Now, before we actually move into more details of the faith-based congregation, I'm just trying to give you a little backdrop to how things are happening within organizations. How these communities with their congregations are actually transforming, how visitors are using Google, for example, to try and understand, or in case of CollabDeen, people have been using CollabDeen to find reputable mosques, people that are verified centers in and around their spaces. So slowly people, even the end users who are in this market, trying to see how they can actually start getting into the faith-based tools or systems to get more information, how smaller groups and community events are slowly evolving more on a virtual platform. So talking about remote communities, how these remote communities are getting evolved. That's something very prime in a direction where a lot of people are moving slowly into raising funds, doing membership managements, fundraising strategies, especially in the month of Ramadan. Things are getting really evolved with, at a lightning speed. Let me ask you, again, trying to take it easy for you to understand on one side and, have more of communication. What is the consequences of a technology revolution in this faith-based Muslim technology ecosystem? Right. Let me ask you again, what is the consequences of the technological revolution? A lot of people I have asked this question, very, very, very few people mentioned there is any negative consequences. There is always a positive aspects to a change, a revolution in terms of technology, how these, say, about 3.58 million masjids around the world are slowly evolving and getting into technology zone. Right, there is this clear and direct effect of technology adaptations, into successful communities growth. There are primarily two KPIs these Muslim communities would want to evolve and see themselves into. How they can actually increase the congregations. We've been traveling around the world, spoke to thousands of communities. Couple of things that's more important for them is how can they actually increase the congregation, the community size, and when the increase of number of community members increase, how this giving can be increased, because while the users join in, they are the one who can slowly start giving back to these communities, right? In terms of fundraisings or donations or whatever fees, subscriptions, or that eventually evolves for these faith-based communities. It's really evolving now. Getting into the Islamic law spirituality on my screen, right? Getting into a high-level understanding of what actually I'm talking about. The faith-based congregations consist of the real congregations. Now, when I talk about congregations, mosques, Islamic communities, centers, organizations, and religious-related events of every denominations around the world has this fund of about $1.2 trillion. This ecosystem is about $1.2 trillion, the whole congregation system. Among that, it's being divided into the actual faith-based congregation, then educational institutes, and nonprofit. Looking at on my screens, congregations are about $418 billion. These congregations do much more than just providing place of worship and religious activities. Different countries have different context to it. Each year, congregations spend about 84 billion on only operations. 84 billion is spent on operations, ranging from, paying hundreds of thousands of personals to paying for goods and services and operational sounds for MCs, foods, gifts, invitation of speakers, say, for example, space rentals, maintenance, and the utilities every month. I know few communities I've spoken to closely, Singapore or any advanced community, randomly, like let me talk about US. The larger communities of about 8,000 congregation members or 10,000, 12,000 members, they spend at least $2,000 on just the utilities. So that's a huge amount they spend, right? Where is the money coming in from, right? It comes from the whole community members. Everyone uh, move on from a non-profit point of view. So then there is another ecosystem within the system as the educational institute. Now, educational institute consists of these Islamic schools, madrasas attached to these congregations, which employs about 1 million full-time teachers, full-time and part-time teachers globally, and teaches to about 25 million students each year. Again, depending on how you look at and to which bracket, but there's a huge thing happening, and not many people have talked about this particular ecosystem. This is one of the first time, probably very, very few times I have spoken about this faith-based congregation having an ecosystem of about $1.2 trillion, and it's evolving as the user base grows, as a lot of things grows here. So when I talk about non-profits, for example, there's so much support globally. Uh, I'm sure a lot of people here know about LaunchGood, for example. LaunchGood, just a couple of months ago, they've reached 100 million of fund raised on their platform, which is tremendous, journey, and it's a successful journey. We all have to look forward to. It's something that a lot of, I know the founders as well, so and that terms, I've seen the journey. I've been one of the big fan of LaunchGood, so I've seen the journey, how they've evolved. People who are really determined to stay in this economy or this ecosystem have really proved themselves, and it's giving them their business, their startups, a good shape into how they actually evolve. So these non-profit organizations are really, going and reaching out funds, supporting socials and non-profit initiatives, giving, because giving is one of the major concept. Uh, yeah, giving is actually a major concept. About 48 billion from religious congregations raised every year. So there's a huge amount of money that's going in there. Please let me know if my screen is looking really tiny. For me, on a big screen, it's okay. People who are on the phone, I can zoom in a bit. Just ping and comment if you want me to zoom in. All right, excellent. Thank you so much. So that's pretty much on the non-profits. Now, non-profits, which I was talking about, giving as major obligations, coming back to the point, 48 billion from religious congregations are happening here. So as I mentioned, a lot of things are getting involved in this ecosystem. So faith-based congregations and the faith-inspired businesses completely together is what actually global Islamic economy exists of. This economy is where, from my perspective, from my company's perspective, these are the two core areas is where we are trying to add value by providing technology to this two ecosystems or within one ecosystem. Or probably the way we are looking at this as is we are trying to be a platform that talks to the faith-inspired businesses on one side, faith-based congregations or faith-based systems, mosques, Islamic centers, societies, organizations and nonprofits evolve here. So we are trying to marry faith and lifestyle on one single platform. I can talk a little bit about it later, but I'm just trying to give more information of what actually this consumer market is all about. Now, moving further down, Islamic digital needs. Again, coming from the reports in this ecosystem, I've seen a couple of reports as well, and having spent some time, there are two classification of this: general lifestyle needs, where things like Google services, Facebook and crowdfunding platforms are being used, social crowd networking systems, WhatsApp for communications, for example, PayPal, Stripes, and other financial platforms, say Razorpay, for example, in India, eBay, Amazon for marketplaces, a lot of Indonesian-based startups getting onto different marketplaces locally, globally. and they're trying to work in a very minor. Please send the pic. Okay, they're working in the very minor context, working in a very micro level, right? So I think that's something that can start evolving when everyone is joining this ecosystem for the larger good on one side and for their own benefits. On the other hand, you have Islamic and spiritual related stuff. You know, a lot of you have definitely have at least 4 to 5 different apps on your mobile phones these days. One of the most prominent lifestyle productivity tool is the Muslim Pro, for example. Halal food ratings and reviews like Zabiha, widely used, especially in the West and modern countries. Modest clothing like the brands mentioned. You know, there are 1,000 plus utilities apps for Quran, prayer timings utilities. Now, there's so much evolving there in that context, and there's a lot of money spent, you know, for consuming of these tools, technologies, building these tools, building this ecosystem of technological products and gadgets. That's another area where a lot of digital need is there. Now, anything that I've just spoken about the Islamic digital needs now and future is we're getting really evolved from this. You know, we have been in the place as Muslims. We've been in a place where we've always consumed technologies. You know, if somebody comes up with a new app, new system. WhatsApp came, everyone migrated to WhatsApp. Facebook came, Facebook, you know, is widely most popular use. You know, anything that giving real benefits, people move on, which is a very good experience for a consumer market. But we have not seen anyone who's building solutions primarily focused from a core, from the scratch for this consumer market that can be designed specifically for these consumer market. That's an area we have been evolved. We have been working for the last 2 years and really speeding up in that direction. A lot of things I really don't want to share in this session because it's primarily focused on giving values to you and not do a sales pitch. But I'm just trying to add some kind of context for why I'm actually sharing all this thing. Now, before I move on to the after COVID, the new normal, I can just pause for about 60 seconds and see if there is any questions, anything you want me to do, either go in speed or go slow, please let me know. Muhammad Ali mentioning, please send the pic. Sure, I'll see if I can share this particular presentation with you, or the pic, or a PDF or of it. Please do follow me on my social media with the name Fateh Ali. I'm quite active on LinkedIn and Facebook. So Fateh Ali, we can just follow me. In the next couple of days, I'll try and put this as a PDF out on my social media. Right. So now moving on to the after COVID, the new normal, right? We've talked about the directions, what's happening. The new normal consists of very positive direction for this consumer market, right? On one side, as I mentioned, I'll just give you a high-level brief of having a deep tech AI-powered community collaboration platform for faith and lifestyle needs, because this is one of the biggest consumer market. Working in silos, working in individual directions would not really benefit the ecosystem, let alone, you know, individual businesses. Because with my experiences since at least 2013 and this ecosystem, I've seen a lot of businesses coming in, going out, just because they're not able to scale it up in their own geography versus, you know, trying to reach out at a global level. Again, it depends on business to business, but there were huge potential. There are a lot of people doing things in silos. Say, for example, a brand and business started up in one of the remote location in, say, Indonesia. There are 100 similar businesses across the world. There would have been a huge matchmaking of B2B services, an opportunity for these B2B join hands and actually grow, which did not happen. So that these are things that, you know, we'll have to start looking from positive sign how platforms like CollabDeen can definitely add value. So just give you a brief of business communities can be formed on our platform, faith-based nonprofit communities, where, you know, you start bringing businesses, brands together and start sharing things on a regular basis. When I talk about sharing, there's so much that people would want to have benefited going on social medias. These kind of private social networks where a verified, private, secure network is a need of the time now for these ecosystem now. Talking about having a verified, secure private network, IoT enabled events management, group, podcasts, video streaming, notifications, communications tools, primarily utilities, prayer timing, fundraising, donations, membership management. Without going too much detail into it, what if you can start finding one platform or one place for doing a lot on this platform as definitely a game changer for a lot of people instead of going on, say, for example, just to give you a glimpse of how these communities work, which I'm sure you know, but trying to give at a global context. Every community around the world who we have spoken, who we have understood how these communities work, we've had a very personal conversation with these top level board members or high level executive members of these organizations. The biggest challenge they have is, what we did is we put down the challenges they had. The point is, these faith-based communities are using, say, for example, if there is an event next week, they go on first on Eventbrite, create an event, or go on Google Forms, create an event or a form where people can sign up, and then they go on WhatsApp, Facebook, on different tools. Then they send up the share link of people to start signing up. Once people sign up, they go on another platform, say, for example, MailChimp, pull out all the email addresses, send them emails to the newsletters, existing newsletters, and the new signups they had, conveying the point, hey, there is an event next week, please sign up, right? Either please sign up or then have a follow-up conversation. So all these things going on 10 different platforms, spending their time and energy. Say, for example, it's a huge things like fundraising, donations that being happening. I've seen live cases in various countries where WhatsApp has been used to do fundraising. That's not really a tool. It's a communication tool. You can communicate, but doing the end-to-end communication and collaborating with your people is not a place where you can use different tools. So that's an area. CollabDeen will come into picture and try to bring every kind of communication and collaboration on one platform. Now, I'd like to give you a scenario, what's going to happen in the next 5 years with my experiences and the detailed research we had, our teams at micro level, at a global level. These are the top 8 things is what we are predicting. This is very closely aligned with the best of technological evolution people have thought about. Number one, mosque management software will become a new base for operations for the community leaders, right? At central place, then digital giving will account for about 80% of or more of these giving. Members engagement will be mobile first, because right now you see 82% of the world engages first on mobile, and very small percentage on web browsers or on the laptops and desktop. So that's the direction that will start really evolving. And these Muslim communities, if they are not on mobile, they're really going out of the game. There's a huge gap. How they can connect the past generation and the future is through these technological changes. They have to be evolving through technology, and that's an area we're trying to really add value. These Muslim companies will come together trying to provide singular solutions, like just I mentioned, spiritual health analysis dashboard for every Muslim, and exit from a social media in its current form. What I mean by that is there's already a lot of less and less engagements happening by these organizations who are really trying to communicate and engage with their members, because they don't have any other tool, and slowly they're trying to migrate on more of personalized engagement. So that's an area you'll start seeing in next few years. A lot of less and less communities would start being on these kind of platforms. Then remote communities will grow, and the next generation will definitely prefer this. So as we just mentioned, you're the link between the past and the future. So this is the time where we really need to make sure you're spinning up your digital collaborations in the space you are in. Voice enabled and wearable devices will definitely start going into the next generation. So that's the new generation of technology. So that's happening from the faith-based sector. Like I mentioned, there's a faith and the lifestyle of global Islamic economy. Now, moving on to the business and the businesses after COVID, right? I'll give you a couple of things. One good thing is definitely there is a lot of predictions people really wanted to see a unicorn in this ecosystem. And I'm very sure in the next 5 years, there'll be somebody out raising up the flag. I know a lot of startup founders who are already par with, huge valuations and going across at a global level. So I already foresee, and inshallah, as a lot of people predict in this space who are more experienced than me, trying to see in the next few years things will really start changing. So first unicorn in the global Islamic economy is what we'll eventually see. And why I've mentioned that as in the top is this ecosystem will only start evolving and start getting a global highlight only when you have these kind of unicorns into the race, when you start seeing these kind of progressive businesses and brands are reaching, trying to be a unicorn. And which once that happens, that sets a benchmark, that sets an example for a lot of startups, founders, businesses to go out and achieve more. And that's something that's coming up. I'm also predicting that may be from Southeast Asia. Indonesia is fastly growing. Every Indonesian Muslim, about 86% of the Indonesian population is Muslim. And there are already entrepreneur by mindset, already evolved. There's so many businesses, every house has one entrepreneur already. In next 10 years, things are really going to change. So that's a sign that where we'll see a lot of things happening in Indonesia. While equally, I have full potential positive signs coming in from India, from Malaysia, and many other countries in Southeast Asia. While a lot of people are really definitely spending time in from Silicon Valley to the UK region. Now, industry-wide regulations are really going to be normalized using of technology. New media technologies like AR, VR is eventually really getting there, especially as I kept mentioning about the progressive thing that's happening with the COVID. You'll start seeing in the next few years where, like we are having a Zoom call today or on YouTube, you'll start seeing more and more events happening. More of new media technologies where a hologram projections will be done as if the person is standing on the stage and talking to you. These kind of things will start evolving, and that's something that if you come from a technology background, start looking into these areas and avenues. Definitely, there's something of huge potential for you to get in there. AI and machine learning will be a normal thing of every sector in the global Islamic economy. Farm to fork is a concept where people are trying to solve how things would evolve. Even CollabDeen, we are trying to really add value there. Building, we're working with a blockchain company that can, eventually say for example, when an egg was laid, when a chick was born, when it was slaughtered, when it came to the a supermarket, or when it was dispatched, or when it can be consumed. All this can be done through through a single scan of an app. Even like CollabDeen app you just opened, and you'll start seeing this in future. This is a journey that a lot of people have visualized in a direction where they want to do a lot of things, but technologically it was a challenging barrier. But you'll start seeing these things start coming in the next couple of years. That's something that definitely is going to add a lot of value. IoT-enabled devices, wearables, on-demand wearables, for example. We are in an age, a lot of data. We have always worked in an age in the last decade where data was more of, we've generated so much data. Now it's time, this decade is more of, making sure how this data could be used, how this big data could be used in a more positive way. Now, coming to IoT-enabled devices, say, for example, iWatch, you just flip your watch and see data content on demand whenever you need it, right? So these are things that's already there. You'll start seeing an evolution in that direction in terms of technology. Now, Islamic fintech startups will rise rapidly. That's a sign we started seeing from a non-global Islamic economy sectors. That's an area definitely a lot of startups will start evolving. I personally know a few startups are doing really well. It's establishing. They have their own challenges, but definitely this COVID is definitely going to add and be a catalyst to really make this progress towards a progressive global Islamic economy sector. Now, London, being main hubs for Islamic banking and fintech, it's definitely that's in the region that will get evolved. Decentralized economy for OIC countries and no non-OIC countries. Southeast Asia regions will definitely emerge with a lot of small medium businesses that will get a rise. India, Indonesia, Malaysia will rise in every economic sector. Bangladesh, Pakistan, these are the countries that's really catching up soon in terms of technology. So that's more on how things will start evolving. I've given you a background, how things started up, how is the consumer market now talking about after COVID, how things will start really disrupting in this global Islamic economy. Yeah, that's pretty much how we can talk about. I definitely want to not go into details. I'll definitely want to give you more insights, maybe as and when we open up for questions. Make sure if you have questions, be prepared. I'll probably one of the moderators will ask you questions. Now moving on, I also want to touch upon what has actually changed. In the last 3-4 months, 5 months, a lot of things have changed. The working styles have changed. We have started going more into remote communities, remote working scenarios. Likewise, when remote working started, we also evolved into remote communities. The faith-based communities are now remote these days. The peak time of the year, the month of Ramadan, these communities are completely remote. They're still engaging. I've started seeing and also being part of a lot of remote engagements on Zoom. That's a positive sign. We'll start seeing this more often. While people are definitely going to get busy in the next generation, it's very difficult now to do this makeshift. People move from again an online community collaboration to an offline. So that's also an area we're really working on, making sure you still provide them reasonable technology to communicate with their communities, while go ahead and make sure they are actually pushed towards going to their faith, your local faith-based communities, that'd be a mosque or Islamic centers. I would just live alone a couple of things, which is not much interesting. Health conscious people will start seeing a lot of things in their sectors that's getting evolved. If there's something that you are working on, that's a change that you can try and add value within the global Islamic economy sectors. Home entertainment products like the media hubs, for example. Ali and Oda is a great example. I was also subscribers for something like that. It's say, for example, Netflix for the Muslim world, especially for the kids. On-demand video streaming, I'm very sure in last few months, there are a lot of engagement that's started adding value from these brands. Ali Huda, there's Ipin, Open, this kind of media definitely grow more. The environmental changes is more positive. It's giving rise to the global calmness on one side. The food sector has changed completely. We've already seen that in last couple of years, but now COVID is again, adding a catalyst. People have not really felt, ordering food or never done it before. That's really started consuming. Now the behavioral changes will start evolving. Especially in the developed countries, this is an area I personally know a lot of startup founders working in this particular sector, where they're creating apps showcasing how these remote deliveries were made possible, and getting food delivered through the app interactions. Education is definitely a prime model for, especially for the youth. My daughter, who is going to a conventional regular school, have moved into remote schooling now for the last 1 month now. Excuse me. So that's an area. Now I'm talking about the faith-based educations or madrasa. These have already been evolved. We've seen remote Quran classes and education system. Now this is going to really rapidly grow here. This is the direction. If you are coming from an education background, make sure you are par with the technology, making sure everything is fitting this long-term vision. More of these things that can map. I'm very sure you can reasonably connect this to your business and brand, and pick up the direction in that direction. Then business models have really evolved. How business, if you, I've always given this example. of Nokia, if you're not really evolving as a business, if you're not treating the change, technological change, you'll be really out of the game. So making sure whether you come from a faith-based community or the lifestyle sector of the global Islamic economy, make sure your business model is getting evolved. Make sure if you're still picking up the business, make sure you pivot rightly and make sure you're consuming the right technological products that can really shape up your business. So what has changed is what we have covered. Now, a couple of quick things into the winning industries. Gig economy has really evolved a lot of things. For example, on-demand services, people like started seeing going on Fiverr or on-demand. Uh, Say you need a developer, go to a platform, you can find a developer, you find a designer, you find anybody who can teach things to you, who can give a lot of value. So the gig economy and the global Islamic economy is open. It's still open. This is an area if you want to really pick up as one of the business idea. If you have, start building solutions or start bringing this kind of thought process where you can give on-demand service. One on-demand service in this economy is the Quran classes, which I've been seeing for many years from those early days of Skype. Classes used to happen on Skype, now Zoom. But that's the only area where we have seen the evolution. But there's so much across, where you can do a lot of teachings of not just the faith sector, but a lot of the things that you can really start adding value in that area where on-demand services can be done. Technologically, there are a lot of things that's getting evolved. Digital products getting evolved. Healthcare is one positive sign, especially after COVID. Affiliate marketing is going to be continuing and increasing their teachers online coaching that I just mentioned about a couple of examples. That's definitely onto the rise, and it's going to be much more beneficial for a lot of startups now. If you really want to pick up, I know somebody, say for example, in doing a Japan training institute. Definitely, this is an online teaching method. Uh, Now, different language could be taught. It could be one idea, but you think from what background you come. How can you inject this thought process or a business idea to your brands? How can you pivot into a new direction and set up something that can take you to a new business idea, take you to a new direction in terms of a business journey. Pharma and alternate medicines are here to stay and are really going to evolve. Data science, sorry about the typo there. Data science, a lot of AI, machine learning, IoT-based services in the global Islamic economy are going to rise. If again you coming from technology sector, not an area where you definitely want to jump into the global Islamic economy, but see from a global scope where there is a $3 trillion economy. If you are into technology, if you are into any business, how can you add value to this $3 trillion sector? If you really identify that there are huge gaps, I have seen every area, every person I've been interacting for the last 2 years and beyond, I've started seeing everyone talking about pain points and gaps in their own vertical. So this is an opportunity. People like us is trying to see how we can, bridge a small gap, but there's a huge gap that we all have to come up and try to add value. So that's an area definitely you can start looking into, especially your youth getting started. This is the whole global Islamic economy is still open. Not many people have actually penetrated yet. Keeping this as one of the last option that started joining in now. You started seeing brands like Nike, Adidas, H&M, Uniqlo started getting started getting there. Uh, that's pretty much into the winning industry. So you can definitely be part of this economy. There's huge industry, learning about the market and encouragement, innovation, and revolutionize. Be advocate of this economy, because as Muslims on one side, it's our real values that you want to go out and advocate this ecosystem, because it's everyone's role to play a smaller part here. Build a new business in global Islamic economy, as I just mentioned. Start with small. It could really take you to a really high level. That's pretty much on what I really wanted to convey today. I think I'm just in time of the time allotted. One last thing I can just touch upon is the technology we have built, where we are marrying life and faith style together on one platform. We are giving it pro bono to a lot of communities. If you want to gift this technology to one of your faith-based organization, it could be a masjid nearby your local masjid. Give them this technology, give them this mobile app where they can connect and communicate with their local communities. So we are already at a global level reached out to about 30 countries and having about more than 300 plus communities signed up in our early beta stage. This will give us a good momentum where everyone starts joining this journey for us, especially at this early age where we can, definitely giving up a promo code. Get signed up. It's worth 149 per month as a subscription, but definitely you can get started and see how we can add value to your community for doing a lot of, communication between the top organizations to the community members. All right, yeah, that's pretty much, I think, thank you so much for listening. Sorry for not keeping up to the pace of my rhythm, but I'm trying to see if there's something that I can answer upon in the questions. I'm happy to open this stage for questions. Thank you so much, Jazakallah. Brother Sadr, open for you.
Yes,
Yeah.
Shafiq, please go ahead.
Yeah, sure. You can even contact Brother Fateh Ali through his social media as well, I guess. So he has already mentioned he's active in LinkedIn and Facebook. So we've got one more session to be started up soon. So I guess we'll conclude by this. Hope all are clear.
If there are any questions, we can quickly take it up. Otherwise, yeah, we can definitely wind it up there.
Yeah. So it was session, I guess already they've asked questions in between.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
Shafiq, if there's one or two small questions, quickly we can take,
yeah,
inshallah. Small
yeah,
questions,
sure.
not the big ones. There's
Any
few very
small
long ones also.
question? Anyone? A lot of questions. Okay. There was a
There are few
question on
people
how
constantly asking, are there any Islamic banks over here? But Brother Fateh Ali is from Singapore. Do you know if any Islamic banks in Chennai?
I can connect. I don't think that are completely as a regularized banks, but I can definitely connect back. I'm not really aware on what's happening on the ground in Chennai yet. But I'm
so there's
yes. People working in that direction. Yeah, definitely. There are other players who are really adding value at a global level. Sorry, at a national level in India. Yeah.
Fateh, there's an interesting question.
Sure.
Can you please elaborate on how CollabDeen differs from WhatsApp for a community?
Oh, tremendously, there's a big change. So let me just quickly, probably in 30 seconds, put you context. WhatsApp is, it's primarily for communications. Can you, let me ask you a question back that'll answer back to you. Can you do fundraisings? Can you do polls? Can you send audio podcast? Can you do live streamings on WhatsApp? Can you have a thread-based conversation? Like if there's a topic going on, can everyone collaborate, put comments on that particular thread? So all these things is not possible, not on say WhatsApp or any other tools. This is a more collaborative, private, secure network that we have built, which can go beyond what WhatsApp does. WhatsApp is more of communication, putting people on group. We still have features like a community groups where a brothers group, sisters group, volunteers group, or management group can interact, build up their a space where you can share documents, profiles, do a lot of collaborations that can stay for the next generation. Say, for example, one last thing on WhatsApp comparison. If somebody joins a WhatsApp group today, they would not have any historical records of what happened in the community for the last 1 year, right? So these are the major differences I can quickly compare with WhatsApp. Thanks. Hope that answers.
So by this, inshallah, I guess we already ran out of time. So I would like to mention our deep yeah.
Yes, thank you so much for giving this opportunity. And at the end, we are here to build this ecosystem, trying to bring values to the society at a global level. So if you people who are watching this coming from different various backgrounds, whether you're an ambassador, advocating a technology or in this ecosystem, whether you're say, for example, innovators, community builders, investors, policymakers, our government or young ambassador, this space is for everyone to come collaborate. It's really going to bring a lot of value to your nation as well. It's not just about trying to see this economy from a global Islamic perspective. This is a shared economy. Say, for example, India has a huge potential of which does because of the market that it has, the number of population, Muslim population it holds. It has a huge opportunity for India from a global economy point of view to add value to this global Islamic economy in terms of doing a lot of value exports, for example, export of modest fashions, meat products, and a lot of things that's already happening. It's a huge potential. We all can grow together. So that's pretty much. Thank you so much for watching once again, and I'll be happy to be engaging further with you all on social media. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
I would like to mention our deep sense of appreciation and gratitude to our brother Fateh Ali for his excellent coverage on global Islamic economy. I'm sure we all have benefited from your talk. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure.
Yeah. I also extend my thanks to hosting partners, Aspire College of Excellence and Cognate, and our associating partners for their enormous cooperation in organization of this event. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of us for our time and dedication. Finally, I would like to thank all the participants who utilized this platform in the right manner. Jazakumullahu khairan. And this summit is brought to you by Aspire College of Excellence and the Cognate. Please like, share, and subscribe. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.